It was a cold Monday morning when Mr. Richard, the CEO of a large fast food company, decided to begin his week in a very unusual way. He had run the company for more than 15 years. He often sat in a big office surrounded by shiny walls, important reports, and business meetings. But lately something had started to bother him. Sales were fine, profits were high, but he kept hearing whispers, stories about tired workers, low morale, and the feeling that people on the ground were struggling. He wanted to know the truth, not from reports or managers, but with his own eyes. So he agreed to appear on the show Undercover Boss. For 1 week, he would leave his office behind and become an ordinary worker in one of his restaurants. The cameras would follow him secretly as he worked under a new name, pretending to be a trainee looking for a job. That morning, Richard looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize himself. His usual expensive suit was replaced by a plain uniform, a cap, and an old name badge that read Rick. A little makeup made him look slightly older and tired, just like any man trying to start over. He took a deep breath, grabbed his backpack, and headed to one of the company's busiest branches, a small restaurant in a working-class neighborhood. When he entered, the smell of fresh fries and coffee filled the air. The place was already alive. People coming in for breakfast before work, kids in school uniforms grabbing sandwiches, delivery drivers collecting bags of food. Behind the counter stood a young man who immediately caught Richard's attention. He was tall, maybe in his late 20s, with kind eyes and a smile that could light up the room. But what shocked Richard the most were the 2 white casts around both his arms. The man was moving carefully, trying to scan orders and handle the register using only his fingers and wrists. Every small action looked difficult, but his expression never changed. He still smiled, still greeted customers with warmth, still thanked them as if everything was perfectly fine. "Good morning. Welcome to Sunnyburger," the man said cheerfully to the next customer. "How can I help you today?" His voice was calm, friendly, and full of life. Richard walked closer and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Rick. I'm the new trainee starting today." The man turned and nodded. "Hey, welcome. I'm Marcus. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. It's always good to have extra help around here." From the moment they started working together, Richard noticed that Marcus seemed to be everywhere at once. Even with his injuries, he kept the line moving, checked on customers, and helped the kitchen when orders piled up. Sometimes, when he thought nobody was watching, he would take a deep breath and stretch his arms slightly. The pain was clearly there, but then he would quickly straighten up and keep going. During a short break, Richard sat with Marcus at a small table in the back corner. Marcus took a sip of water, his hands trembling slightly as he tried to hold the cup. "Marcus," Richard asked gently, "if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your arms?" Marcus looked down and smiled faintly. "Oh, it's a long story. Just an accident, but I'm okay." "You shouldn't be working like this," Richard said. "Doesn't it hurt?" Marcus shrugged. "It does a little, but I have to work. Bills don't wait, you know? And my little girl's medicine costs more than what I make in a week, so I can't just stay home." Richard nodded slowly. There was something about Marcus's calmness that felt heavy, like a man who had already carried more than most people ever would. As the day went on, Richard kept learning more about the restaurant, how the oven sometimes broke down, how staff often worked long hours, and how customers could be impatient. Yet through all the chaos, Marcus was like the heart of the place. Everyone, from the fry cook to the manager, respected him. When a coworker spilled a drink, Marcus jumped in to clean it, saying, "Hey, no worries. I got it," even though his hands were still wrapped in bandages. One older customer, a woman with gray hair, came in every afternoon. When she saw Marcus, her eyes lit up. "There's my favorite cashier," she said. Marcus grinned back. "Hi, Miss Nancy." The usual coffee and muffin? Richard couldn't help but notice how people loved him. Not because he was perfect, but because he was kind. His kindness seemed real, something that came from deep inside. Later that evening, the restaurant grew quiet. The last few customers left, and the staff began cleaning up. Richard stayed behind to help mop the floor. Marcus, though clearly exhausted, stayed too. He worked slowly, carefully wiping the counters one by one. "Do you ever rest?" Richard asked. Marcus laughed softly. "Rest? Not really. I work 2 jobs right now. This one, and some night shifts at the gas station across the street. My wife lost her job 3 months ago and we're behind on rent. So yeah, no time to rest. The words hit Richard hard. He wanted to ask more, but he stayed quiet. As the week continued, the undercover boss learned even more. One morning, Marcus came in early, before anyone else. He went to the break room, took out his phone, and started watching a short video. Richard peeked in quietly and realized it was a video of a little girl singing. Marcus smiled with tears in his eyes. "That's my daughter," Marcus said when he noticed Rick standing there. "She loves to sing. She says she'll be on TV one day." "She's amazing," Richard said softly. "Yeah," Marcus replied. "I promised her I'd never miss her school concert again. I broke that promise twice already because I had to work, but next time, no matter what, I'll be there." That night, Richard went back to his hotel room and sat quietly for a long time. He had come to see how his business ran, to check efficiency, service, and training. But instead, he was learning something much deeper. Behind the numbers were real people like Marcus, people holding the entire company together with their hard work and faith. He thought about the bonuses executives received at the end of each year, the large company parties, the luxury offices. Then he thought of Marcus, coming to work with broken arms, smiling at strangers, and worrying about his daughter's medicine. Something inside him began to ache. On the final day of training, Marcus and Rick worked the morning shift together. A rush of customers came in. Students, construction workers, delivery drivers. Orders were shouted, trays were filled, drinks spilled, and still Marcus kept everyone calm. A little boy dropped his ice cream, and before anyone could react, Marcus bent down, carefully, painfully, to hand him a new one. "Here you go, buddy," he said gently. "Don't cry. We've got plenty more." The boy smiled, and his mother whispered, "Thank you so much." By closing time, Richard felt emotionally exhausted. He had seen enough to understand that this wasn't just about one restaurant. It was about thousands of people like Marcus who made the company what it was. Before leaving, Richard turned to him. "Marcus," he said, "you really love this job, don't you?" Marcus smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Yeah, I do. It's not easy, but I meet good people here every day. That makes it worth it. Life's not perfect, but we keep going. That's what my mom used to say." When Marcus said goodbye that night, he didn't know the truth, that the man standing beside him wasn't just a trainee, but the head of the entire company. As Richard drove away, his mind was full of thoughts. He replayed every conversation, every smile, every moment Marcus had helped someone without expecting anything in return. And for the first time in years, Richard felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: humility. He realized how disconnected he had been from the people who truly made the company work. Marcus wasn't just an employee. He was the soul of the place, a man who showed that even in pain, kindness could still shine. That night, the CEO couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Marcus's words. "Bills don't wait. My little girl needs her medicine." He promised himself that when the cameras stopped rolling, he would find a way to help, because this wasn't just another episode of Undercover Boss. This was a story about courage, quiet strength, and a man who refused to let life's pain take away his smile. And though Marcus had no idea what was coming next, the truth waiting to be revealed would soon change his life and touch the hearts of millions who would later hear his story. A few weeks passed since Richard, the CEO, finished his undercover visit at the small restaurant, yet Marcus's face never left his mind. He kept thinking about the young man's quiet strength, his gentle smile, and those two broken arms that never stopped working. Every day, while sitting in his tall office building surrounded by glass walls, Richard would glance out the window and wonder what Marcus was doing at that very moment. Was he still working 2 jobs? Was his daughter feeling better? Was his wife able to find work again? Finally, the day came when the production team called Richard to film the final part of the Undercover Boss episode, the part where he would reveal his true identity to the employees he had met. He felt nervous in a way he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just another television appearance for him. This time, it felt personal. When Marcus received the invitation to come to the company's main office, he was surprised and a little scared. He thought maybe it was about a job review or a new training program. He had never been to the headquarters before. The big city felt far away from the quiet streets of his neighborhood. Still, he dressed neatly, wearing a clean shirt and borrowed tie from his brother. His arms had healed a little, though the pain still came and went. As Marcus entered the building, everything felt different. The shiny floors, the calm air, the smell of coffee and polished furniture. A kind assistant led him to a waiting room. He sat there looking at the company's posters on the wall. He saw smiling faces of employees and words like, "We care, we serve, and together we grow." He smiled to himself and thought, "I hope they really mean that." Then, the assistant asked him to come inside a large room with bright lights and cameras. Marcus looked around, confused but polite. At the center sat a man in a dark suit, someone he didn't recognize at first. But when the man stood up and removed his glasses, Marcus's eyes widened. "Wait, Rick," he said slowly. Richard smiled warmly. "Marcus, my name isn't Rick, my name is Richard. I'm actually the CEO of the company." Marcus froze. His mind went blank for a moment. You're the boss?" he whispered. "Yes," Richard said softly. "And I wanted to meet you again. This time not as a trainee, but as the person who runs this company. I went undercover to understand how our workers really live. And Marcus, your story changed me." Marcus looked around, speechless. Cameras were filming, but he wasn't thinking about that. His heart was beating fast. Richard gestured for him to sit. "Marcus, when I first met you, I saw something special. You worked harder than anyone I've ever seen. You smiled even when you were in pain. You helped customers and co-workers without expecting anything in return. I didn't understand how you could do that while both your arms were hurt. Then I learned the truth." Marcus looked up, confused. "The truth?" Richard nodded. "Yes, the truth about how you got those injuries." The room fell silent. Marcus lowered his head. "I know," Richard continued gently. "You broke your arms trying to save a little boy who ran into the street. You didn't even know him, but you jumped without thinking. You pulled him out of the way just in time. You got hit, not him. You protected someone's child, and then a few days later you came back to work because you needed to take care of your own." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. He hadn't told anyone at work about that day. He didn't want pity. He just wanted to move on. "How did you know?" he asked quietly. "We reached out to the people who saw it happen," Richard said. "One of the customers told us after seeing your story during filming." Marcus, that kind of bravery can't go unnoticed. For a long moment, Marcus sat there silently. He wiped his face and took a deep breath. "I didn't think it was a big thing," he said. "I just did what anyone should do. That boy could have been my daughter." Richard smiled, though his own eyes were glassy. "That's exactly what makes it so powerful." He paused, then continued. "Marcus, I want to personally thank you for reminding me what real courage and kindness look like. You are the kind of person who makes this company great, not because of what's written in a handbook, but because of who you are." Then Richard leaned forward. "And I want to help you. First, the company will cover all your medical bills. You shouldn't have had to worry about money while you were in pain. Second, I'm giving you 1 full year of paid leave so you can recover fully and spend time with your family." Marcus's mouth opened slightly, unable to speak. "But that's not all," Richard said. "You told me about your daughter, how she loves to sing and dreams of being on stage. I've set up a scholarship fund in her name. She'll be able to go to any school she wants when she grows up. That's my promise." For a moment, Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. He covered his face with his hands and began to cry quietly. "Sir, I don't even know what to say," he whispered. "You don't have to do all this." Richard reached out gently. "You've already done more than most people ever would. It's the least I can do. You showed me that leadership isn't about sitting in a big office. It's about seeing the people who make everything possible." The cameras captured every tear, every quiet word. But the moment didn't feel like a show anymore. It felt real. 2 men from completely different worlds sharing something honest and human. After the meeting, the team invited Marcus's wife and daughter to join him. When they walked in, Marcus's daughter ran straight into his arms, laughing as she hugged him tight. "Daddy," she said happily. Richard knelt beside her and smiled. "Hi there, sweetheart. You must be the singer your dad keeps talking about." She giggled shyly. "Yes, sir. I want to sing on a big stage one day." "Well," Richard said, "I think you're going to make that dream come true." Marcus's wife stood quietly nearby, her eyes full of tears. "Thank you," she said softly to Richard. "You have no idea what this means to our family." Richard nodded. "I think I do. Your husband reminded me what real strength looks like." Later, when the cameras stopped rolling, the 2 men talked privately. Marcus confessed that for a long time, he had lost hope that life could change for the better. I just tried to keep going, he said. Some days it felt like I was walking through a storm with no umbrella. But I always told myself, if I can smile today, maybe tomorrow will be brighter. Richard listened quietly, realizing how much he had learned from this humble man. You know, Marcus, he said, I've built many things in my life, companies, careers, plans. But meeting you taught me something money can't buy, compassion. You helped me remember why I started this business in the first place, to serve people. The next day, when the Undercover Boss episode aired, millions of people watched Marcus's story. Viewers were deeply moved. Social media filled with messages of support, praise, and tears. Strangers sent letters to the restaurant, thanking Marcus for reminding them that kindness still existed in the world. Local newspapers wrote about him. A few community groups even came forward, offering to help his family. But through it all, Marcus stayed humble. He kept saying, I just did what anyone should do. A few months later, Marcus returned to the restaurant, this time not as a cashier, but as a community ambassador for the company. His job was to train new employees, share his story, and remind others that every role, no matter how small, has value. On his first day back, he stood in front of a group of young workers. You might think your job is just to serve food, he said. But you're doing more than that. You're serving people. You never know what someone's going through when they walk in. A smile, a kind word, a little patience. That might be the best part of their day. Everyone in the room listened closely. They could feel that his words came from experience, not a speech. That night, as Marcus drove home, the city lights reflected on his windshield. His daughter sat in the back seat, singing softly to a song on the radio. His wife held his hand. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt peace. He didn't have everything in the world, but he had something more important: gratitude. He had seen how good things could come from pain, how life could surprise you when you least expected it. At home, before going to bed, he looked at his daughter sleeping and whispered, "Keep singing, baby. The world needs your voice." Far away, in his high-rise office, Richard looked at the framed photo on his desk, a picture of Marcus and his family taken on the day of the reveal. He smiled, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, pride not in himself, but in the people who truly made his company what it was. He had started his undercover mission to find problems. Instead, he found purpose, and Marcus, the man with the broken arms and the unbroken spirit, reminded everyone who watched that kindness, no matter how small, can heal hearts and change lives.